start with the brake cables, and I'm going to cut this housing to fit. So it's going to go from the shifter into the first cable stop. Same thing for the left brake, that's going to go from this lever directly into the brake. So we'll start with the right side. So I'm going to use my cable cutters and peel back this hood, and you can see the brake housing is going to start in here, like right in there. So we'll just hold this here, and then we'll keep it in place, kind of guide the cable along the bars and into the first stop. I'll leave a little bit of extra space in case I want to move the bars around, but not too much extra. So we'll just cut our first section right about there. Better to be a little too long and make it shorter later than cut too much. We'll go ahead and cut the first section here. Okay, that's our first piece. Then we'll do our second piece, and that's going to go from the left shifter from here, like that. And that's going to go straight into the front brake over here. Again, we'll give it a little bit of extra space, so give us room to play with. So I'll cut that right about there. Okay, that's our second piece. First, we'll set up our right brake. Actually, let's put on our ferrules on the end now. So we'll put one right here. Make sure that fits in there neatly, which it does. And the other one's going to go in there. So we'll put our other ferrule in that one. So it's going to go over this, like so. So this is how our cable housing is going to look, basically, like this. Put our cable ends on this one as well. That's going to go from here on the left-hand lever and into the front brake, like that. So it's going to look something like this. Next, I'll take my rear brake cable, and I'm going to start at the lever here. That's going to go through here, and it should just go into this housing directly. So just start threading that through. And we should see the cable come out right here, right there. So we'll go ahead and just pull this whole thing out first. Now, because this is a breakaway, when you take the bike apart to travel, these two sections come apart and you have to disconnect the cable. So rather than disconnecting from the brake, it actually comes with these cable connectors. So what's going to happen is that this cable is going to stop right here, and then we're going to use a new cable to continue from here into the brake. I'm going to first thread this through. Goes through here, like that. Now I'm going to have this cable stop right about where the joint is, just before that, so right about here. I'll cut this cable here, then I'll back out the bolts here to put the cable inside the connector, and then we'll just tighten it back down, basically clamp the cable inside. Next, we'll take another second brake cable and thread it through this other half of the connector. So we'll just thread that through here, and then the cable end will stop right there. Okay, so the head is stopped by the other part of the connector, and I'm just going to put that into this end of the connector and then thread this all the way in, like that. Then I'm going to continue finishing the cable threading as if this was just one long cable, but later on I can always disconnect this. And at this point I'm going to use the rest of the housing to size this correctly. So I think that should be about this length. So I'll cut that here. Okay, so I've cut this brake cable to this length. I've put my little ferrules on the end there, like this. Okay, so I'm just putting this cable through the cable stop and into the housing here, and that should just come straight out over here like that, and we will thread that through the brake cable clamp. So we'll loosen this, thread the cable through, and it doesn't have to be set perfectly yet because we'll have to adjust the brakes anyway. Okay, so that looks pretty good over here, and we'll just clamp this down. If I pull the brake, we'll see the lever move, so that's working as it should for now. And then we'll come back and do the same thing for the left brake. So I'll thread my cable through this lever, and that's going to come out here, and we'll put that through the housing like that. And since I've already put it down here, it should just come out right there at the brake. Like that. And same thing, thread the cable through the clamp. Go ahead and tighten that. And when we pull this lever, we'll see those brakes also contract. So now our brake cables are all set up, and we'll tape these down eventually to the bars to secure them, but first we'll run our derailleur cables as well. And we actually only have one because we don't have a front derailleur. So we can just close that up. I have my derailleur housing here, and I'm going to cut this to size from this cable stop to the lever. So we'll cut it right about there. I'm going to attach my ferrules to the end. One there and one here. And this cable is actually already installed. It came like this, so I don't have to run it through the shifter. So we'll just untangle this cable, run it through one end. And it came out the other end. It's going to go like this. And we're going to run this inside of this brake cable. So it's going to go through here and through this cable stop. So our cable ferrule is going to go right there, like that. Then, since my cable kind of runs alongside the down tube, I'm going to install this little rubber bumper on the cable. So that way, when it's like bouncing around, you know, it'll protect the frame a little bit. Okay, so similarly, we're gonna actually disconnect the cable from here, in the same way we did up here. So I have my cable connector for derailleur cables, and I'm also going to have a second shift cable. So I have my second derailleur cable here, and I'm going to thread that through this end of the connector. So it's going to thread through like this, and it stops there, and it's going to go into the other end of this connector, so we'll just screw that in. Then I'm going to decide where to cut my cable here, and this one I want this connector to be just above this clamp right there. So I'll cut this right there. And the good thing is, since we only have one derailleur, I only have to do this one time. And that's going to go in here, like that. And then I'll just tighten this clamp. Okay. And then we'll thread the rest of this cable through the guide under the bottom bracket and out this way. And here I'll have to cut another section of housing. So we'll measure from here, this stop, to where the cable goes into the derailleur. Now with this, you always want it to be as short as possible while still having like a nice round bend. You don't want this housing to be like bending too sharply. So we'll cut it right there. We'll install our ferrules. I like to have these ones with tails that go into the derailleur. This one will go into the cable stop. So this goes like this. Thread our cable through. Okay, there's our cable right there. We're going to guide that towards this clamp right here. Okay, it's supposed to do this, like this. Now if we did that right, then we should be able to shift this and see this move. So it is moving, and we'll have to adjust that later on, but it does look like it's working. So our cable routing is good. Now that the cables are set up in a way that I like, I'm now just going to tape these cables against the bar to make them nice and neat. And I've already done this side, so I'm just going to do it on this one as well. I'll start on the inside of the bar here in this little corner and hold the housing against the bar where I want it to be attached, and then just kind of wrap real tightly around it. And I'll just do 2 nice tight wraps around and then cut it. And then I'll do one more right here. Hold the cables where we want it. And cut right there.